Master these words at midnight, unlock a dark reality you never knew existed. The clock in the old cabin ticked louder with every second. It was almost midnight, and the air was thick with anticipation. Jamie sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a tangle of candlelight flickering against the cracked walls. Her heart raced, pounding like a drum, as the last remnants of daylight faded into darkness. Rumors had spread like wildfire through town about the old book that sat on the rickety shelf, a tome bound in leather, rumored to hold secrets that could bend time and reality. They said that if the words were spoken just right, at the witching hour, unimaginable powers could be unleashed. An echo of whispers danced around the room, drawing her deeper into the mystery. Shadows twisted along the floor, and when she glanced out the window, the moon hung low and eerie, a silvery eye watching her every move. She felt a shiver crawl down her spine. Everyone warned her about the dark things that lurked beyond the veil. Yet, she couldn't ignore the thrill bubbling in her chest. Flipping the pages, she found strange symbols she couldn't trace. Each glyph felt like it hummed an electric thrill that tickled her fingertips. The strange allure promised knowledge beyond the ordinary, a chance to change her life forever. But with every pulse of fate calling her name, Jamie sensed a foreboding pressure closing in. What if this power came at a price? What if she called upon forces she couldn't control? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the final seconds of the hour waned, Jamie took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. A loud bang echoed outside, breaking the silence, and her heart jumped. She caught a glimpse of a dark figure slipping into the trees, lingering like a shadow. Could it be someone, or something waiting for her final utterance? The temperature dropped, the candles flickered violently, casting wicked shapes that danced along the walls. Fear gripped her tighter. Jamie knew she was on the brink of something extraordinary, but it felt more dangerous by the second. What would happen when the clock struck? What horrors might emerge from the dark reality hidden behind these ancient words? As the clock hands inched toward midnight, the air hummed with an unnatural charge. Jamie's throat tightened, like a noose pulling her closer to the edge of a cliff. The dark figure outside vanished into the blackness, but a deep-seated tension lingered in the cabin. She could hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears as desperation clawed at the edges of her mind. Was this the moment she had been waiting for? Or was she blindly stepping into a trap? The candles flickered erratically, their flames rebelling against the quiet wind creeping through cracks in the wooden walls. Jamie squeezed her eyes shut for a heartbeat, pushing back doubt. No turning back now, she whispered to herself. A pulse from the book drew her fingers to its pages, each turn revealing more symbols that twisted her understanding of the world. It felt familiar, yet entirely alien. She couldn't quite make sense of it, but something deep within her screamed to keep going. And just like that, the clock struck midnight, echoing through the silence like a drum announcing the dawn of a new era. Say the words, a voice hissed around her, an icy whisper that danced just beyond the edge of hearing. Jamie flinched. Was it her mind playing tricks on her, or something more sinister? She could feel a collective intake of breath, like the world holding its own in anticipation. Unlock a dark reality, she began, but her voice shook. Jamie steadied herself, inhaling sharply as though the air itself was charged with magic. It filled her lungs, coursing through her blood, igniting a fire within. I command the unseen forces to reveal their truth. The moment the last syllable escaped her lips, everything changed. The cabin trembled, floorboards creaking beneath her as if echoing the lament of ages past. Shadows stretched, creeping closer, swirling like a chorus of lost souls. The candles flickered out one by one, suffocating the room in darkness. And then a voice rose above the chaos, spine-chilling and ethereal. "You've awakened us." Jamie's heart began to race, fueled by fear and exhilaration. She stumbled back, guided only by the warmth radiating from the residual traces of candlelight. "Who are you?" The response sent a shudder down her spine. "We are the forgotten, the whispered legends that dance in the shadows of your world. You dared to call upon us, to unlock the door of reality. But nothing is free, dear child. There are rules to the game." "What game?" Panic surged within her, pushing her to grasp for clarity. "What do you want from me?" "Knowledge, power, a vessel. You yearn for something beyond your mundane life, and we can grant it. But beware, Jamie. The darkness demands a price." Just then, the darkness in the corners of the room coalesced, revealing forms, half-seen and misshapen. They pushed closer, each face twisted in a silent scream, tugging at her very essence. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but curiosity tethered her to the spot. What power lay dormant within her? What had she awakened? Jamie glanced at the book, its pages now glowing faintly, illuminating a path that seemed riddled with riddles and dangers alike. "Join us," the strange voices murmured like a distant chant, "or be consumed by your own desires." With a surge of determination, Jamie stepped forward, but an invisible force pulled her back, paralyzing her with dread. The choice was hers, yet with each heartbeat, she felt the weight of its consequence grow heavier. What lay ahead was uncertain, and Jamie couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that she was never truly alone. As the figures twisted back into the shadows, Jamie took a breath. The air crackled, thick with choices yet unmade. With the darkness murmuring in her ears, she attempted to find her voice again. "What happens if I refuse?" In that charged silence, time held its breath. The candles rallied, flickering once more, and Jamie felt the oppressive weight of her decision wrapping around her like a shroud. All that remained was the night and the choices woven in its unseen fabric. What would she decide? And could she survive the consequences of awakening a dark reality that demanded her essence? The questions loomed like a storm cloud ready to burst, leaving her trembling at the edge of both fear and dark fascination. The moment stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. Jamie could barely breathe, the anticipation suffocating. Shadows danced closer, murmuring secrets that threatened to fracture her resolve. The book pulsed softly, a beacon in the oppressive darkness, urging her to make her choice. "What happens if I refuse?" She repeated, her voice a mere whisper. The entities swirled around her, the air thickening with their dark malice. "You shall remain in the light, but that light you cling to will become a burden. The mundane world will close in on you, stifling your spirit until you wither away, forgotten like us." A chill washed over her. Memories of her ordinary life flooded back, the 9 to 5 grind, the loneliness creeping in during sleepless nights, the noise of laughter from friends that felt so distant. What if the choice they offered was her only chance to escape the ordinary? What was the price of embracing that escape? "Join us," they sang again, the promise in their voices intoxicating. Embrace your true self, Jamie. She knew better than to trust in things that lurked in shadows. Yet deep down something flickered. Curiosity, unquenchable, a burning ember that refused to die. Was it possible they were telling the truth? What power could she hold? "Will I be changed?" She breathed, heart racing as a vision of herself capable and fierce flickered in her mind. "Everything comes at a cost, dear child," the voice echoed, resonating with an aged sorrow. "But the change will be wondrous." The candlelight faded to an almost ghostly glow as if the lanterns of hope were dwindling. Undecided yet anchored to the moment, Jamie felt agitation gnawing at the corners of her mind. Suddenly, a figure stepped forward from the swirling mass. Unlike the others, it held a luminous air, a presence that radiated both compassion and intensity. "Jamie," it said, its voice soothing, like the gentle sea lapping against a shore. "You must understand that everything in this existence is intertwined. You seek power, the darkness seeks a partner. Dread clawed at her throat. A partner in what? An expansion of both realms. You become a bridge. But know this: the darkness is fickle. Betrayal lies within. With shaky fingers, she reached for the illuminated book, feeling warmth fill her palms, casting away shadows. If I accept, what will I lose? Only what you are willing to sacrifice, the figure replied, a shadow of a smile on its lips. Your fear, your doubt, perhaps even your freedom. But what you gain is immeasurable. The words hung in the air, charged like a lightning bolt waiting to strike. Jamie hesitated, the lines between hope and fear blurring dangerously. She could almost taste the power, sharp and sweet, yet the price echoed like an ominous tolling bell in her heart. Please, she whispered, clutching the book tighter. What must I do? A sudden chill swept through the cabin as the entities surged forward. Their presence enveloped her, a maelstrom of ancient energy and seductive whispers. Say the words once more. Let it be known that you desire to embrace the darkness. With her heart pounding like a war drum, Jamie felt the push and pull of the unknown, the thrill of surrender tempting her to leap forward. Would she jump into the depths of the abyss or remain shackled to her ordinary existence? In that moment, Jamie realized she stood at the precipice of a decision that could shatter or uplift her reality. She scanned the shadows, catching flashes of desperate faces, beings lost once human, caught in their own thirst for power. Was she ready to join them? Will you bow to darkness or step away? They taunted, a chorus of uncertainty. With her breath hitching in her throat, Jamie finally met their gaze. I choose to. The room quaked as the last syllable hung in the air, dangling like a fragile thread above a bottomless chasm. The moment felt electric, and the shadows drew closer still, ready to claim their prize. But was she going to swallow the invitation of eternity or flee from the haunting whispers of the dark? Behind the swirling faces, a deep silence fell. A pause. Pregnant with possibility, what would she ultimately decide? And would she emerge empowered or ensnared? The shadows seemed to recoil, the sulphurous scent of ancient power swirling around Jamie like a sinister fog. In that heartbeat, she felt the universe shift. Fate itself hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of her choice. I choose to embrace the darkness. The words spilled from her lips, nearly drowned under the hum of the oppressive energy that pulsed around her. As she spoke, she felt a surge deep within her core, a wild mix of fear and exhilaration. Instantly, the cabin shook violently, the wooden walls creaking in protest. A cacophony of whispers erupted, rising in pitch and intensity, merging into a symphony of haunting echoes. Welcome, Jamie. Welcome. The entities surged forward, their chilling hands skimming her skin, igniting a sensation that was as enticing as it was terrifying. The book in her hands flickered with a blinding light, illuminating the room as if it contained the very essence of the night sky. None had dared hold it so boldly, yet here she was, feeling its power thrive beneath her fingers. Remember your choice, Jamie. Remember there's always a price, the radiant figure warned, its voice laced with urgency. The shadows entwined around them, a gnawing chorus of temptation. A sharp pain stabbed at her chest, tightening around her heart. Images swirled in her mind, a future built on chaos, an intoxicating vision of freedom marred by the sobering realization of responsibility. She saw herself commanding storms, bending the will of others, living a life where dreams and desires danced within her grasp, but alongside that vision was another one, a twisted reality, where darkness consumed light and trust splintered into betrayal. The faces of those lost to ambition ignited dread within her. They had been like her, once hungry for power and seduced by illusions. Choose wisely, the figure said again, still serene amidst the chaos. For you are not just changing yourself, you are shifting the tide of reality. Jamie closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to breathe. The weight of the decision settled heavily on her shoulders, each breath a steep climb. When she opened her eyes, the light from the book flickered, reflecting a labyrinth of choices laid before her, each path beckoning with glowing edges, dangerous yet alluring. Very well, Jamie, the entities hissed, their voices swelling like a storm. Choose what you will sacrifice and what you will gain. The room dimmed to a hushed atmosphere, every being watching patiently as if the fate of the world hinged on her next actions. She felt clarity pierce through the cloud of fear. The darkness spoke of power, but it also spoke of treachery. Were they simply using her ambition against her? "I shall sacrifice my fear," she declared, her voice steady. The shadows erupted in a frenzied dance, the figures rejoicing as her words echoed and twisted in the air. "So be it. Now, you begin to see," they intoned, their voices mingling into a chilling harmony. But just as she thought she understood, the cabin shifted, swirling around her in different shades, whispers of her choice curling like smoke. With the act of relinquishment came an unsettling sensation deep in her gut, the ebbs of her humanity danced away like fleeting shadows at dawn. "Embrace your transformation," Jamie. Reality began to twist, colors bending and patterns weaving themselves into an intricate tapestry of light and darkness. Then, inexplicably, the hopes she had clung to darkened, replaced by a gnawing reality of solitude. She staggered back, her pulse quickening. In that moment of disorientation, a shock coursed through her, as if every sacrifice she was willing to make stirred something primordial and dark within her. Suddenly, a thunder crack tore through the atmosphere, and the walls of the cabin pulsed. Jamie clutched her head as visions exploded in her mind, the future she had chosen, maddening and beautiful yet tinged with despair. It seemed both a promise and a curse wrapped in luminous threads, but as the shadows encroached on her thoughts, whispered taunts floated in the air. "What have you truly given up?" There's always more at stake. With her heart racing and doubt creeping in, she took a step back, ready to confront the darkness that now stirred inside her. What had she unleashed? What echoes of her choice would reverberate through time? As the storm raged around her, Jamie felt torn between two worlds, the one she had known and this newfound, terrifying power. And then she heard it. A faint, distant cry, like a wail from the depths of despair. "Help us!" The darkness fluttered, revealing fragments of another truth. Faces twisted in torment, eyes brimming with regret, they begged for salvation. The true question struck her with a jolt: was this who she had become? Caught between aspirations and consequences, Jamie stood on the brink, ready to face the shadows, or flee from the haunting call for help. What path would she take next? Would she seize the power now offered, or risk everything to save those lost in the folds of darkness? The shadows around her began to writhe, pulsating in cadence with her racing heart. Jamie felt the weight of their gaze, pulling her deeper into an abyss of uncertainty. What had she truly unleashed with her declaration? It felt like a veil was torn, exposing the raw underbelly of the world. With every breath, the cries for help grew clearer, drowning her in dread. "Help us!" it whispered again, louder this time, a chorus of voices rising from the void, drowning out her thoughts. She could see shapes fleeting in the dark, faces twisting in agony, reaching out as if begging for release from an unseen torment. Her instincts screamed for her to flee, yet something tethered her in place. Was it power? Was it guilt? As she wrestled with herself, the darkness surrounding her started to seep through the walls, folding into the cabin like a creeping vine, its tendrils curling and stretching, molding into horrific figures that danced with malicious glee. "Join us, Jamie," they hissed in unison, twisting their features into grotesque smiles. "Embrace what you have become." Fear churned in her stomach, but it was laced with something more intoxicating, a rush of adrenaline, a sense of belonging to something far larger than herself. She had given up her fear, yes, but at what cost? The very essence of that sacrifice felt like an anchor, dragging her deeper into their malicious embrace. "Choose, Jamie." The radiant figure intoned, its brightness flickering as the cabin trembled. "What is your next sacrifice? Your innocence, or perhaps your sanity?" The air crackled like static as the walls of the room warped again, echoing with visions of what lay ahead. She could see herself standing atop mountains of ash, surrounded by remnants of the lives she could have saved, hearts and dreams left to rot beneath her newfound power. "I won't abandon them," she shouted, but even as the words left her lips, doubt gnawed at her resolve. The shadowy figures shifted, an unsettling dance of despair and glee swirling around her, almost mocking her strength. "Save them. They cackled. They are already lost. You must focus on yourself. What is good for the swarm is worse for the individual and vice versa. A tempest of emotions flooded her mind, anger and fear warring viciously. What would it mean to wield such power? What path lay before her? Was she truly willing to sacrifice more than just fear? Jamie's breath hitched as she looked into the depths of the shadows. They stirred once again, drawing closer, their elongated fingers clawing through the air, glimmering with dark promises. Power doesn't just protect, it consumes. Are you ready? Drawing herself upright, Jamie fought against the suffocating energy enveloping her. I will not bow to you, she cried, but the resolve in her voice felt thin, like glass slicked with oil. As if her defiance had ignited them, the shadows swelled, enveloping her in a cold embrace. Such delicious defiance, they teased. But it will only lead to torment if you do not embrace your true nature. Desperation filled Jamie as she fought to resist becoming the very thing she had feared. She recalled the suffering faces, the cries for help. No, she whispered, this isn't my destiny, this can't be. Then a whip of cold wind screamed through the cabin, and Jamie felt it in her bones, a sudden shift, an overwhelming surge enveloping her. What had she become? And more importantly, was it too late to turn back? As her vision flickered, a surge shot through her core, igniting every fiber of her being. The cabin faded into a pulse of blinding light and chaotic whispers, consuming all boundaries between her reality and the shadowy void surrounding her, and right before the bright flash swallowed her whole, a chilling voice echoed in her mind. Seek, Jamie. Only in the depths of despair can you find the light. But remember, every choice has its chain. Just as the light expanded to swallow her completely, Jamie realized she was no longer in control. The questions lingered loud and heavy. Had she lost herself forever? Was she now bound to the darkness? What would she find on the other side of this blinding threshold, and what stakes would be laid before her? The real journey had just begun, and the shadows were only beginning to reveal their secrets. Would she dare to uncover the truth? The world around Jamie dissolved into a whirlwind of color and sound, more vibrant and chaotic than anything she had encountered in her life. It felt like she was being pulled through a cosmic tunnel, where her very essence collided with the force of the universe. A kaleidoscope of images flashed before her eyes, fleeting memories of laughter, love, loss, all blending into a singular, overwhelming flood, and then silence. She fell onto cold, hard ground, landing with a jarring thud. Gasping for air, Jamie pushed herself up and looked around. She was in a vast, dimly lit expanse that felt both foreign and familiar. Shadows loomed in every direction, whispering secrets that tickled the edges of her consciousness. If the cabin had been a cage, this felt like the wilderness, endless and alive, yet thick with palpable danger. Welcome, seeker, a smooth voice slithered over her, wrapping around her like a fog. Jamie strained to see who spoke, her pulse quickening. There, half hidden in the darkness, stood a figure, cloaked in garments that seemed woven from the night itself. The edges of their form blurred and shifted, making it hard to pin them down. Who are you? Jamie demanded, her voice shaky but fierce, longing for answers even amidst the fear clawing at her insides. I am a guide, the figure said, their tone dripping with allure. A bridge between realms. You have called upon powers beyond your understanding, Jamie. You are in the verge now, where choices resonate through the fabric of existence. The verge. It sounded ominous, and she shivered at the weight of it. Choices? What choices? She pressed, rising to her feet, anger mingling with confusion. What have I done? The figure stepped forward, their face finally illuminated by a dim blue light that shimmered around them. Jamie gasped. They looked hauntingly beautiful, serene yet terrifying. Your leap into the abyss was not without consequence. You have awakened ancient forces, Jamie. Now, you must traverse the paths they have laid out for you. To save who? She stumbled over her words, clenching her fists. Those you love, of course, the figure replied seductively, their smile revealing teeth sharper than a razor's edge. Or, perhaps, it is more prudent to aim for your own survival. It is ultimately your choice. Suddenly, visions enveloped her again, glimpses of her friends and family caught in swirling shadows, their faces etched with fear. Desperation clutched at her heart. "They're suffering," Jamie exclaimed, choking on the rising panic. "I won't let them rot in this darkness. I choose to save them." A ripple of energy jolted the air as laughter echoed around her, cold and mocking. "Brave soul. But remember, every saving act carries its own price. What are you willing to sacrifice?" Jamie felt herself trembling, every nerve aflame with the weight of her choice. "I'll do whatever it takes." "Very well," the figure said, their eyes glinting with a mix of approval and something darker. "Then embark on your quest, Jamie. You must seek out the heart of the Verge. Only it holds the power to restore light to your loved ones." "But how?" Her voice was frantic, the vision of her friends' faces haunting her. "Follow the path revealed by your fear," the figure replied, gesturing to the swirling shadows coiling behind them. "Face the essence of what you dread. But tread carefully, for it may demand the deepest sacrifice of all." As Jamie stood at the edge of a dark abyss, her heart pounding like a war drum, she realized the true magnitude of her decision. There was no going back. She was entering a world where each step could seal the fates of those she cherished most. With her mind racing and her gut tight, she whispered a silent prayer, steeling herself for the impending darkness. As she took her first step into the unknown, she felt the pull of dread and hope intertwining. Would she emerge triumphant in her path to save them, or would she unravel into the very shadows she sought to conquer? The journey had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. What awaited her in that uncharted darkness? And would the price of power ultimately be worth it? The shadows surged around Jamie as she stepped into the abyss, swallowing her whole. It felt like stepping into a nightmare, where the air was thick and heavy, almost alive. Each breath tasted like iron, her heart thrumming wildly in her chest. As she moved deeper, flickers of light danced around her like will-o'-the-wisps, leading her forward or luring her into danger. Her mind raced. What had she awakened? What ancient forces were now unleashed? Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but the faces of her friends flitted through her mind, eyes wide with terror. "Stay focused," she muttered to herself, her voice barely a whisper against the oppressive silence. "I have to find the heart." The shadows whispered secrets, their voices swirling together into a symphony of dread. They taunted her, painting twisted images of her loved ones, trapped in an endless loop of despair. A shiver ran down her spine. She couldn't let fear drive her, she had to push through it. Ahead, a faint glow caught her eye. It pulsed rhythmically, beckoning her like a heartbeat. With each step closer, the air vibrated with energy, strange and electric. As she neared the source, the shadows receded, revealing a cavern adorned with shimmering crystals that dripped from the ceiling like tears. In the center of the cavern stood a pedestal, draped in thick vines and cloaked in mist. Atop it rested an orb that radiated blinding light, so pure, so beautiful. The heart of the Verge. Jamie felt an overwhelming urge to touch it, to grasp its power. Visions of her friends being freed from darkness surged in her mind, their joy igniting a fire of determination. But the moment she reached for the orb, a shattering roar erupted from the depths of the cave. The shadows spiraled back with ferocity, merging into a monstrous shape that took form before her. Eyes like burning coals glared down from its towering figure, an embodiment of her fears come to life. "Foolish girl," it boomed, the cavern shaking with its voice. "You dare to disturb the balance? What makes you think you deserve the light you seek?" Jamie froze, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. "I want to save them," she cried, though uncertainty gripped her. "Sacrifice is the price of salvation," the creature hissed, its form swirling like smoke, shifting ominously. "What are you willing to give?" Images of her loved ones faded again, replaced by her own reflection. Lasting memories of her selfishness, her fears, her shortcomings. A lump formed in her throat, and she understood the depth of the choice she had to make. Anything. She shouted defiantly. But in that declaration, doubt crept in like a creeping shadow. Was she ready to face her deepest fear, to truly let go of herself for others? The creature chuckled darkly, a sound that echoed endlessly in the cavern. Then face it, child. Only when you confront your true fear can you claim the light, it warned, retreating momentarily. An icy dread washed over her as she pieced it together. She had to confront the very essence of her fear. But what was it? Was it her own darkness? The possibility of failure? As the shadows loomed closer, threatening to consume her, Jamie steeled herself, a flicker of hope igniting inside. I will not back down. She screamed, and a surge of energy crackled around her. A sudden realization slammed into her. Confronting her fear might mean facing the darkness inside herself, the fears of loneliness, betrayal, and the pain of loss. With a warrior's spirit, she stepped forward, ready to unearth the truth of her soul. The shadows wailed, the ground trembled, and she felt herself slipping back into silence once again. What awaited her in that confrontation? Would she rise from the ashes, or be crushed under the weight of everything she hid inside? Only the verge could tell her now, and she was all in. And as the darkness circled like hungry wolves, one thought remained: was the truth worth the cost? The shadows closed in around Jamie like an embrace from the dark. Each heartbeat thudded in her ears as she summoned the courage to step further into the unknown. The cavern felt alive, tense with anticipation, swirling with the silent whispers of everything she feared to confront. In that moment, a terrible clarity washed over her. She could feel the weight of her past pressing down on her, the choices she had made, the paths she had avoided. She wasn't merely stepping into a cave, she was diving deep into her own soul. Face it, the creature's voice echoed, taunting, almost playful. Your greatest failure lies waiting for you. What could it mean? Jamie's stomach churned uneasily. Visions of her childhood flitted through her mind, friends she had betrayed for popularity, moments of warmth turned cold with indifference, promises she'd broken to keep herself safe. Each memory felt like a blade, cutting deeper into her. As she reached for the orb again, the cavern shook violently. The shadows contorted, twisting into forms of her past: the girl she bullied, the friend she ignored, her mother's weary face filled with disappointment. Each visage floated grotesquely before her, reminding her that the darkness she sought to vanquish wasn't just in the cave, it was inside her. Let me go. I will face this. Jamie shouted, her voice rising amidst the chaos, her breath hitching as tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. I can't be the person I was. I want to be better. The creature's shadows recoiled as if struck. Noble intentions are often drowned in selfishness. What will you sacrifice? It taunted, its form shifting closer, but something deep within her stirred. Was this even about sacrifice? Or was it about acceptance? Accepting her fears, her mistakes. She realized the truth: they were hers to carry. Only by embracing them could she hope to be free. Fear does not own me. She yelled, the words erupting from her, raw and fierce. I'm more than the sum of my failures. The shadows paused, jolting in surprise. Jamie felt an electric surge of energy ripple through her. The air became charged, heavy with a different type of light. For the first time, she didn't see just darkness, she saw her own heart struggling to break free. Then show me, the creature hissed. Prove you are worthy of this light. What will you give up? Now, every doubt and regret crystallized before her. She bent her head, acknowledging how they had shaped her. I won't sacrifice myself. I'll embrace every part of me. She declared, embodying her resolve. A radiant warmth began to pulse, igniting sparks of light in the shadows. Suddenly, a rush of wind swept through the cavern. The glow around the orb intensified, beckoning her once more. Jamie felt her skin prickle, the heat wrapping around her like a shield. As she stepped toward the pedestal, the shadows writhed but held at bay, terrified of the light her acceptance had summoned. In that moment, clarity struck her. It wasn't just the heart that mattered. It was the journey she had to take within. But then the creature unleashed a roar that shattered the energy, sending waves of darkness crashing over her once more. You cannot escape. You will regret this. It bellowed, starting to form into something monstrous once again, eyes burning fiercely, with her heart racing and doubt clawing at her sanity. Jamie steadied herself for what lay ahead. She clenched her fists, gathering every ounce of strength to confront the monstrous essence of her fears. Could the newfound light guide her through the treacherous confrontations awaiting her? Or would the darkness drag her down, exploiting her most painful truths? As the clash loomed on the horizon, Jamie took a deep breath, ready to fight not just for the heart, but for her very soul. The moment of truth was upon her. What would rise from the ashes of her confrontation? Could she truly reclaim her light? The roar echoed in the cavern, a sound that felt like it seeped into her bones. The once comforting warmth that enveloped Jamie flickered uncertainly as the creature shifted in front of her, a dark figure growing larger and more grotesque. Shadows twisted into jagged claws and fangs, its eyes glowed with malice, hungry for despair. Face your failure, Jamie. It screeched, spitting her name like a curse. You cannot hide from what you have done. Fear coiled tightly in her chest, but with each beat of her heart, the warmth flared brighter. She could feel it pulsing in rhythm with her resolve, a fierce reminder that she was standing here despite everything that had tried to drag her down. The orb shone with a brilliant light, illuminating the vast cavern, revealing hidden corners filled with her past echoes. You think you can challenge me with mere light? The creature sneered, its voice dripping with mockery. You will always be the coward who ran away. Running away is not my story anymore. Jamie shouted, feeling the words ignite a fierce energy within her. I'm here to reclaim everything I lost. With a surge of determination, she thrust her palm toward the orb. The light surged forward like a wave, pushing back the encroaching shadows, scattering them like leaves caught in a storm. It felt exhilarating, powerful even as the creature writhed and hissed. You think your light can save you? It roared, lashing out with an enormous, shadowy appendage that cut through the air like a knife. Jamie dodged just in time, the air singing with the darkness that barely missed her. She could feel the creature's rage, feel it seeking out every flaw, every doubt she had ever harbored about herself. But now, they were mere whispers against the deafening roar of her resilience. I want to let you control me. I'm more than my mistakes. As she spoke those words, the orb grew even brighter, casting a brilliant light that shattered the looming darkness ahead. She could almost feel it dispersing the shadows, revealing yet another aspect of herself she had hidden away for so long. Suddenly, the faces of her past, those she had hurt, ignored, began to emerge in the light radiating from the orb. But instead of grotesque forms, now they appeared warm and forgiving, illuminated by the purity of her acceptance. Jamie, the faces echoed together, their voices mixing with the wind. Forgive yourself. You are more than your choices. Her heart raced at the sight of them. She knew she had betrayed them once, but could their warmth extend forgiveness? That hope sparked a deep longing within her, flickering with possibility. Forgive me. She cried out, feeling the weight of every lost connection tearing at her heart. I am not asking for another chance, I am choosing to remember and learn. I want to run from my past. As if answering her plea, the creature roared again, anger spilling from its mouth like venom. Foolish girl. You cannot outrun the truth. It lunged forward, a dark wave crashing toward her. In an instinctive reaction, Jamie raised both hands to the orb, letting the light spill out in a shimmering arc. The blast felt electric, crackling through the cavern, illuminating every corner. The shadows shrieked, collapsing under the force of her light, and for an instant, the creature faltered. But then, she felt it, an icy grip wrapping around her ankles, dragging her down. The darkness had begun to fight back, desperate to reclaim what it had lost. Are you willing to lose everything? It hissed, the shadows clawing at her resolve. What will you do when faced with the void? The air thickened, her breath hitching in her throat as she grappled with a truth she didn't fully understand. What am I truly willing to fight for? With her heart pounding, Jamie felt her pulse sink with the light swirling around her. The shadowy darkness twisted and curled, taunting, but beneath its clutches, she found her voice again. I will fight for my truth. I will fight for my heart and soul. As she screamed those words, the cavern lit up, overpowering the creature and its darkness with overwhelming brightness. But would her light be enough to defeat the ultimate darkness? She could feel the creature rising, a titan from the depths, plotting its next strike. And as the light surged from Jamie, the cavern vibrated with an energy that promised change. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. What would emerge from this clash of light and shadow? Would Jamie find the strength to conquer the monster within, or would the depths swallow her whole? The next moment teetered on the edge of fate. The shadows writhed as Jamie faced the towering creature, her heart hammering within her chest as she readied herself for a battle that felt like a reflection of her inner turmoil. The brightness surrounding her flickered in response to her determination, scaling her desperation and resolve. She wouldn't let the dark consume her. Fight for your truth. She shouted, pouring her heart into the words. With each syllable, the orb pulsed, releasing streams of blinding light that danced forward, striking the creature. The collision sent shockwaves through the cavern, shaking the very core of the darkness that threatened to engulf her whole. The creature recoiled, momentarily stunned. You think this mere light can challenge me? It gritted out, its voice dark and guttural. Yet there was fear in its tone, a crack in the armor of pure malevolence. Jamie thrust her hands forward again, channeling every ounce of energy she could muster, recalling her friends, her family, all the moments of joy, love, and warmth that illuminated her life. I'm not afraid of you, she declared, the power of her voice swirling around her, blending with the light from the orb. The cavern trembled, vibrating with the intensity of her conviction. I have accepted my failures, I have accepted myself. With that acceptance, she dug deeper, unlocking a hidden strength. The light brightened exponentially, lighting the cavern like a supernova caught in birth. The shadows writhed chaotically, their forms stretching and twisting, unable to cope with the surge. Gasps and whispers echoed all around her, a chorus of the souls she had not just loved, but also let down, each one now walking closer toward the fringes of her brightness. One by one, they emerged from the depths, their figures now transparent and ethereal, lifting her spirit as they surrounded her. Memories of laughter, warmth, and hope encircled her in a bubble of love and support. You can do this, Jamie. Remember us. Their voices urged, wrapping around her. The shadows thrashed, screaming, attempting to reclaim their lost influence, but Jamie could feel the grip weakening. Your attempts at tethering me to guilt are over, she shouted, thrusting her palms once more into the orb. The blinding radiance exploded outward, scattering the dark forms, incinerating anger and hate until nothing remained but light. The cavern shook violently as the creature unleashed a final primal scream, its monstrous shape collapsing in on itself, dissipating into nothingness, absorbed by the very light it sought to extinguish. The ground beneath her shifted, sending tremors throughout every inch of the space, cracking the facade of shadows that had ruled her life for so long. With the defeat of the creature, Jamie felt the warmth wrap around her like a comforting embrace. Relief washed over her, and the last vestiges of her nightmares began to evaporate, replaced by an overwhelming calm. The heart of the verge pulsed steadily, glowing with a soft, steady glow. With trembling hands, Jamie reached for the orb. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, a wave of energy surged through her, connecting her back to all that she defaced, all she had earned back. Images of her friends together, laughing, vibrant, filled her mind and heart. She closed her eyes, absorbing every possibility the orb promised, every tether to hope and light erupting within, and then, stark clarity washed over her as she released a heavy breath. I want to save them, to bring them back from the dark. They deserve to know the truth. The orb pulsed energetically, vibrating with acceptance, and at that moment, she envisioned the light weaving its fabric, transforming it into a powerful force, restoring health and joy to her loved ones. Slowly, the cavern began to shift again, the landscape swirling, twisting, and collapsing until Jamie found herself back in the tired old cabin. The candles flickered, their humble light illuminating the space surrounding her, banishing the lingering shadows. The book lay open, glowing softly, whispering secrets to her ear. Just then, the door creaked open and Jamie spun around. There, outlined against the moonlight, stood the silhouettes of her loved ones, worn yet alive. Rushing forward, she collapsed into their comforting embraces, soaking in the warmth, the reminder of connection. "You're back," she whispered through trembling lips, not sure if she was dreaming. "What happened, Jamie?" one voice asked, warm yet edged with concern. "I faced the darkness," she explained, her heart full, "and I found the light." As she held them close, Jamie knew a truth deep within her: she had reclaimed herself, evolving from shadows into something much greater. There was power in acceptance, in the scars poignantly woven into her very essence. The trials were far from over, but she wouldn't face them alone. The weight she had borne for so long lightened as they stayed together, fortified in every heartbeat that echoed the promise of an unbreakable bond. The darkness had tried to claim her, but she had risen, transformed, and emerged victorious. The future glimmered not without challenges, but now within reach, and with that realization, a new dawn began to break over the horizon. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we'll embark on together. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how Jamie conquered her dark reality. Your support makes all the difference. Be a true fan.